So as you can see, I just rocked up in this beautiful BYD. It's 100% electric. Now, this sedan has up to 500 horsepower. It's a beautiful machine, all electric, and it's got very, very interesting features in it. Remember, this car is available right here in Zambia, and if you'd like to do a test drive on it, get in touch with the BYD team. So I'm here test driving this brand new 100% electric BYD car. It's a beautiful piece of machine, man. I'm with Rashid from BYD. Rashid, just tell me some of the features on this car.
Well, what you're looking at is 100% electric vehicle, as you just explained right now, Mr. Ken. So now, the beauty part about this car is that it's been designed in such a way that it gives you comfort. It gives you absolute very good handling on handling. It grants you very good performance, and apart from that, you just enjoy the drive in total. Yes. Now, key features is that number one, our accelerating range is going to be, our accelerating speed is going to be very fast. Your driving range is also very, very conducive and is very, very good because you're able to cover 520 kilometers on a full charge on this particular brand, on this particular model. Yes.
All right.
Yes. Away from that, for a sedan, I don't know if you felt it, but it feels like as if it's an SUV. It's a bit on the high side.
Even the suspension feels a little different. Look, it's a brand new car, so everything just feels so good. So how quickly can I accelerate on this car from zero?
So what I'm going to do is, I know I'm going to make a 10 step around here. I'll tell you to put it to 0, then I'll put it in sport mode, then I'll tell you to run 0 to 100, and we see how that goes. Is that okay?
I would love that, man.
All right. I don't want to tell you, but I want you to feel it.
Yeah, okay. But it's a very comfortable car. And to be very honest, I've always avoided test driving cars.
Why is that?
Why? Because it will make you buy if it's really good. And this guy is absolutely amazing. You know,
I know, it's fantastic.
It's beautiful.
All right. So let's just maybe try to make a turn around here. Then we now hit 0 to 100 on our way back.
Okay.
Press.
Okay.
Are you ready?
Yeah.
Okay. 1, 2, 3. Go.
Hey.
Woo!
Hey.
What? Wow. I could see my DOP was pushed backwards.
Exactly.
It feels like it's a plane and we're taking off.
Exactly.
Wow.
How was that for you?
It's amazing, brother.
That's 3.8 seconds. But if you actually look at it correctly, it was just about 3.5 seconds somewhere there. We did in 3.8 seconds. That was it.
I couldn't even look at the speedo, huh?
No, we were already above 130.
Wow. Just the torque, boss.
So that's 670 Newton meters of torque.
Where are you located?
Okay, so if they want to come for a test drive, let them come through to Folksdale Court along Zambezi Road. That's where our showroom is located in Roma Park, in Roma. Yes, sir. Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much, sir.
Time for us to go shoot the podcast. Hello and welcome to the Kenny T One-on-One podcast. As you can see today, I'm wearing a jacket, new Mwape jacket, because I'm speaking to Dr. Aaron Mujajati. He's a specialist physician, author, and entrepreneur. Doc, welcome to my podcast.
Thank you and congratulations. Quite interesting to see that you started this, and I'm quite curious to see where this goes.
This is the first time you're here, Doc.
To this building, yes, first time.
We welcome you. We're
Thank
very
you.
grateful that you came.
And a beautiful infrastructure, by the way.
Oh, great.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I was given a small tour, and it's looking very good.
Thank you, Doc.
You've done very well.
Thank you, Doc.
Yeah.
Let's get started, Doc. We'll start with why it's important for us to eat watermelon.
Oh, several reasons. Several reasons. Of course, apart from the fact that it contains water, a lot of nutrients, but for men it has a special reason.
Which one, Doc?
Which is why I encourage it. For men it has a special reason in that it enhances the quality and type of erection that you have, and and several people testify to the fact that it actually does that.
So the more men eat the watermelon, the more strong they become in bed.
Of course, the better the erection, actually. Yeah, the erection is stronger and lasts longer. In fact, It's been shown to be part of the treatment for mild erectile dysfunction, not severe, not moderate, but mild erectile dysfunction. It actually works.
Our guest today, like I said, is Dr. Aaron Mujajati. Doc, let's start from the beginning.
Yeah.
Early life. Which school did you go to? Where were you born?
Okay, so interestingly, I was born at University Teaching Hospital.
Here in Lusaka.
Here in Lusaka, yes. And I was born and raised not very far from here, in Chaisa compound. That's where I lived from early childhood. Up to the time I went to university, that's when I left Chaisa compound. So I went to school to Emersdale Primary School. Emersdale Primary School is just next to Chaisa itself. That's where I did grade 1 to grade 7. I failed my grade 7 at first attempt. I had to repeat grade 7. Then when I repeated, that's when I passed the grade 7. I had to write twice. Then I went to Matero Boys for my grade 8 and 9. From there, I went to Hillcrest for my grade 10 and 12. Then from Hillcrest, University of Zambia, where I obtained my first degree in medicine. And then after that, I obtained my second degree, my master's degree in internal medicine. Then after that, I went to do another master's degree in business administration. And then in between, I've done several other courses.
Are those local? Have you had an international
qualification? Yes. For my, like right now, I am a certified corporate wellness specialist. It's an American accreditation. Yeah.
Great. Now, Doc, I'll take you back to your days of Chaisa. How was growing up in Chaisa? And do you think maybe some of the things that you experienced as you're growing up in Chaisa could have affected your failing your grade 7?
Yes, it did. Because remember, I grew up in an environment where passing an exam, like a grade 7 exam during our time, was a rare find. It wasn't very common. The common thing was that most kids failed anyway. And growing up in Chaisa at that time, we didn't have like a lot of role models, like people who went to school and did well in school and did well in life because of school. We didn't have a lot of such role models. And life at that time was very, very different in the sense that the things we focused on, unlike now, where the kids we raise now, they grow up in their house in front of video games and things like that. We played outside, and we got up to, yes, we played outside. We played football. We did everything, and so life at that time was not very. It wasn't leaning more towards academia, but I was lucky that I was raised by parents who emphasized two very critical things in their home. Either you went to school and that you went to church. Those two things, I was raised by people who didn't compromise on that. For example, my very, very early stages of life, I was sort of like homeschooled, if you like. So by the time I was starting grade 1 at that time, I already knew how to write my name, how to count, how to do simple arithmetic, because my mother taught me from home.
Oh,
yeah.
Great. Was she a teacher? No.
In fact, my mother never went very far in school. I mean, she quit school, I think, around grade 8 and 9 at that time of her equivalence. Except that she was so passionate about taking kids to school, and she pushed hard. That that's why I'm the third born in a family of 10 children. My mother has 10 kids, and I'm the third born.
Yeah.
So all her 10 children at least went up to grade 12. Some of them are pharmacists, some of them are accountants, some of them are doctors like myself, some of them are computer people, some of them are into engineering. Some of her children are into different things. But
so all of them are properly educated?
Yeah. All of my mother's children went at least up to grade 12.
Okay. Usually the family umo apusanako.
Well, there's one in every family. Unfortunately for my mother, it was me.
Oh. Yeah.
Yeah. I was a bit of a problem child for her for quite a while.
When you're growing up.
Yeah.
Great. So after university, you started practicing.
Yes. So after university, I started practicing at UTH as an intern. I did internship for 1 year. And then after that, I decided to specialize. But what is interesting is that, you see, throughout my young life, I always wanted to be a lawyer. Yes, always. I wanted to do law. But it changed in grade 12. The reason it changed was that, at that time, during our time, your acceptance letter for UNZA came through the mail. And you had to apply to UNZA like in the second term of your grade 12, during our time. I don't know what's going on now.
I think things are different now.
Yeah. So it was at that time when the careers master just sat with me and said, look, you're very good with science and maths. Going into law will be a waste. Why don't you do, medicine? And that was the first time I ever heard of something called medicine. Because remember, I was coming from Chaisa. I'd never seen a doctor. There were no doctors in my family. There were no professionals in the compound that you can go to and say, what are the career options out there? Nothing. So I was hearing about this thing called being a doctor for the first time. And so I applied for it, UNZA. Unfortunately for me, the grades were enough for UNZA to pick me and take me into natural sciences. And that's how I became a doctor.
So it wasn't a situation where, I want to be like my uncle that's a doctor.
No.
And then you've got kids who, when they're growing up, for example, my daughter wants to be a vet from the time she started speaking. And I can see how she relates with animals and so forth.
Things, yeah.
So it's a very clear path for her, I think. You didn't have any of that?
No. Growing up in Chaisa compound, we didn't have those types of role models. For example, my father was self-employed. My mother used to sell at the market, and she did, small businesses. But of course, I don't know what drove her to push us to go to school, because she was very passionate about, us going to
education.
School. But what we became and what we would become with school, it's not something she sort of like emphasized to say, become a doctor, become a lawyer, become a teacher. In her mind, you just had to go to school. In the neighborhood where we grew up, there were no doctors, there were no lawyers, there were no engineers, there were no accountants. Most parents we knew were either self-employed, or they worked for the Indians, or they worked for these parastatals at that time. Remember a company called Zamox?
Zamox, yes.
Yeah. Most
Zamox,
parents,
they were dealing in the gas?
Yes. Most parents either worked for Zamox or for Memako at that time. Yeah, things like that.
So your dad was running his own business?
Yes.
What kind of business was this?
So my father was in construction.
Okay.
Yeah, and he was into construction. He ran a construction business.
Let's talk about religion. How important is it for parents that have children in their home to make sure that they take the kids to church? I mean, I think that's what you experience when you're growing up. And I'm asking this because I'm assuming that it has actually shaped, to a certain extent, the person that you are today.
Yes. Like I grew up in a home where it was sacrilege not to go to church. Both my parents really, really emphasized. I never understood it. I didn't like going to church myself. It's not something that I enjoyed doing. But they really emphasized, and they made sure. Come Sunday, you were all in church. Whether you liked it or not, you were in church. If you want to live in their home, you had to go to church. So I've carried on with that. My kids, I make sure they are in church. Even if I'm not in church all the time because of the nature of my work, but we make sure that they are in church.
They're in church.
All the time as well. Because I don't know why they pushed me to go to church. And I'm also hoping that as I push them to go to church, it will also, bear some dividends. Yeah.
All right, Doc. Now, I want to take you to your days of UNZA when you're a student.
Yeah.
What was life like?
It was a very interesting life, actually. Remember, coming from my background, going into university, suddenly you meet people from other different backgrounds, different exposures. You meet people come from affluent homes. Yeah, suddenly you meet kids who are coming to school driving. Some have cell phones. At that time, a cell phone was big, and we didn't have cell phones. We didn't have cars, and it was a very interesting experience, and challenging too. And then the freedom. Suddenly, you are on your own. You can do whatever you want. You can drink if you want. You can do drugs if you want. You can. And girls come to your room. They even sleep in your room sometimes. It was a very strange experience for me, coming from a very conservative home. Yeah. But what also helped was that having failed my grade 7 exam, and because I was very upset when I failed grade 7 and repeated, I didn't want to experience that again. For as long as I'm in school, I didn't want to experience that. So I made sure that I managed these potential distractions religiously. So I really wanted to make sure that I don't experience that pain of having failed. So despite all this new excitement about university, the freedom and all that, I really focused on getting my school out of the way.
So you didn't smoke, you didn't drink, you didn't do drugs?
During university, I never smoked, I never drank. But when I grew up in Chaisa, we experimented a lot.
What does
at
that
a
mean?
very
Though?
young age. We experimented a lot because Chaisa compound at that time was very different to what it is today. You had so many, for adult entertainment, majority of them in the tavern.
Yeah.
And then, and as kids, at that time, there was not much of age restriction in terms of being found around those places. Yeah. So we would experiment with a few things. But by the time I got to the university, maybe because of that same exposure and having failed my grade 7 exam, I wasn't very excited about alcohol and going out to drink and all that, because that's something I had already... For me, doing that felt like going back to my childhood, and also having experienced what had happened to me at that time. And so throughout my university life, I didn't drink, and not even once. I was laser focused during my university years. I never drank, I never smoked anything. But in Chaisa, yes.
Back in the day.
Back in the day, we experimented quite a bit.
So now, Doc, medicine is not what you wanted to do.
No.
Eventually, now you get into it. How was your experience? Is it? I'm imagining myself getting into medicine. Even just seeing blood, scares me. How did you acclimatize to it and eventually fall in love with it?
It was hard. I remember my first day in medical school proper. So, the way medical school was during our time, it was 7 years. So the first 2 years, you do your A-levels. And then after that, you go to Regia campus and now start medicine proper. Now, I remember in my 3rd year, that's when you now start actual medicine proper. So we go into the dissection room and they assign us a dead body. So we're in the dissection room and there are tables and there are dead bodies everywhere. And then they put you on a table and they assign you a dead body. And that's what you're going to study for the next 2 years. I remember how scared we were. I mean, if it's the girls, they were literally crying, sobbing. I remember I was scared. I remember having nightmares. I remember us coming from Chaisa compound, we had all kinds of theories about dead people. We used to be afraid of funerals. We used to be afraid of a funeral procession, or just to look at a dead person. We never used to, have that.
I remember when I was young,
Yeah.
there was a man that was running, he was running a funeral parlor.
Yeah.
In Kitwe. Those that grew up in Kitwe will know Mr. Cotton. He's a white man. Every time we would see his car coming, we would start running.
Yes. Yes. So that same fear of the dead, that's what I had carried. The same fear from the compound.
Yeah.
That's what I had. Imagine that it's my first day in the dissection room. It was hard. It was hard. But the way medical school is, they have a funny way of programming you to a point where in a few months' time, I mean, I'd go to the dissection room at night with a few friends, even by myself, and I'd be okay, surrounded by dead bodies, and I'm fine. And then it's moved from there into when we graduated, going to the wards now to see patients. They prepare you enough that by the time you are looking at certain things, you're not moved. You're not moved by fear. You're moved by compassion, not by fear. Yeah.
Great. You're watching the Kenny T One-on-One podcast. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Also hit that bell button so that every time we upload a new episode, you get a notification. We're speaking to Dr. Aaron Mujajati. He's our guest today on the show. Now, Doc, we hear stories that, in the mortuary, at Malukula, when someone who has been pronounced dead wakes up, and finish it off. How true is that? I asked the guys here if they've heard that before.
You know what's funny? When we were growing up, that's what we heard. And those stories were very rife. And when I went into medical school, right, that's the first thing I wanted to find out. Only to discover that, first of all, there's no hammer in the mortuary.
Did you check everywhere, though?
We checked everywhere because I was equally interested when I got into medical school. There's no hammer in the mortuary, and the mortuary attendants, if for some reason you decide to wake up from the dead, don't expect anyone to hammer your head or to kill you. They'll actually be trying to help you and take you back to the ward so that they can resuscitate you and things like that.
Yeah.
And also, just for your comfort, people don't come back from the dead. No, they don't.
It doesn't happen.
It doesn't happen.
It doesn't happen that a doctor certifies someone dead, but meanwhile...
No, although in history, right, there's been a few cases where people have come back from the dead. It's called the Lazarus syndrome. People have come back from the dead, but it's very, very, very rare. And in Zambia, we don't have a recorded case.
So let's talk about the Lazarus syndrome. What is it about?
So Lazarus syndrome is where someone dies and they are certified dead, and all the parameters of death are present. This person has died. And then for some strange reason, they wake up. Literally wake up and they're okay and they're fine. Yeah.
Doc, I want to speak about back in 2017.
Yeah.
You became CEO of the Health Professionals Council.
Right.
That position, were you appointed? What was your experience with it?
Yes. I was given the opportunity to head that institution as CEO. And the Health Professions Council's job is to license doctors, license hospitals, and at that time it also included licensing schools and managing standards in schools in terms of training of healthcare workers. And that was my role. And when I joined that institution, I was hired by the board. And it was a very interesting journey. I was lucky that I had a very strong team when I was CEO of that organization, such that when we worked there, almost a year and some months into the job, we had finished the entire 3-year strategic plan that the board had given us. I had even gone back to the board to declare that the strategic plan you've given us is done. Give us another one. And the board had even scheduled to do another strategic plan by June of the following year, because the last board meeting we had was around November at that time. And I felt that was the right time for me to also lobby for a raise. I mean, you've performed.
Yes. Delivered.
Yes. But again, I remember my term was quite interesting. A lot of things happened.
So you stopped practicing?
When I was appointed as CEO, that was my 9 to 5 during that period. Yeah. So I had to stop practicing on the ward. So I went into administration. Yeah.
So afterwards, did you leave? Did you get fired?
I was actually fired. It was quite dramatic. I woke up in the morning. I remember it was a Wednesday in January at that time. And usually what I used to do was that I never used to go out in the field to do inspections and all that, because what we had done is that we had raised an army of inspectors.
Inspectors.
So during our time, I had taken advantage of these professional groupings that you have, these associations. Pharmaceutical Society of Zambia, Zambia Medical Association, and things like that, Biomedical Society. What we did at that time was that we asked them to contribute members to the pool of inspectors. Then we asked Ziale to train them as prosecutors on the HPCZ Act. So we had over 100 prosecutors. The reason we did that was that we wanted an inspector who understood the whole process from start to finish.
Yes.
And so that's what we did. And now, on that fateful day, we had sent out teams to go and do inspections. Remember, when I joined the institution did not have so many vehicles. So when we joined, I think we bought over 11 vehicles at once. These Hilux vehicles to assist
with inspections.
With operations.
Yes.
Yeah. So we were sending out teams to go and do inspections. So the team had just left. Now, because I liked to be in the office and to handle things from base while others are in the field doing the work, I got a call from a friend. And it was like, hey, you are in the news. Now, for me at that time, being in the news was not unusual because of different activities that we were doing as HPCZ always put us in the news. I'm in the news. Okay, that's not unusual. I'm in the news for what now? No, have you listened to the news? They are saying you've been removed. I've been fired.
You were in the office?
I was in the office. And it was announced in the news that I was fired by the then, Minister of Health through his office. So I called the board chair and said, sir, there's this. And the board chair also tells me, no, I've also heard. So relax. Let me get the full information. Yeah. And I didn't know what to do, whether to pack my bags, to go home. I didn't know. I mean, it's in the press. Yeah. So I spoke to the board chair again. He advised that, you know what, go home so that we see how we can, deal with this matter. Since it has come from the minister, our hands are tied.
So the board had nothing to do with it?
The board had nothing to do with it.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's how I left, went home. I sat at home for 4 months, and that's when they decided to write me a letter of dismissal 4 months later, backdated to January, to say, no, now you're fired. So I sat at home for 4 months without formal communication that had been removed from my job. And then, unfortunately for me, the letter they had written also had no reasons for why I was fired. Yeah, they couldn't say clearly why I was fired. And when I received that letter, immediately I took my employer to court because I also wanted to know why I was fired. But as fate would have it, the matter ended up being settled out of court.
At whose request? Your request? Their request?
At the request of the government. I think when governments changed,
okay,
the new government came and decided, you know what,
there's no need.
There's no need for us to fight. Are you willing to settle this matter? And I have always been willing to settle the matter. The only challenge that was there at the time was that when they were announcing my dismissal, the new board that was appointed, because my board chair was also removed together with me at the same time. So the new group that came, they were insisting on not paying me my dues.
Why?
They said it was force majeure, like that it was an act of God that I have been removed. So
okay.
so my legal team and myself did not agree, and obviously, and we took the matter to court. And then when the new government came in, they felt that there was no need to continue fighting, and that's how they agreed to pay me my dues. And the matter was withdrawn from court, and we are now in good terms with everybody else.
That's really good. But Doc, just out of curiosity, did you have an idea why you think they fired you?
Why I think I was fired? To be honest,
step on some toes.
I think I did. I think I did. I was. If there's one thing I would do differently if I was put in that job again, I think all the decisions I made, I would make them again, probably the same way.
The same way.
Yes. but I would modify the way I managed certain key stakeholders, especially politicians.
Okay.
Yes. When you are serving as a CEO of a parastatal, it's naive for you to think that the interests of the politicians always align with the interests of the institution. It's naive to think like that. And I think that's the biggest lesson I learned from there, that you need a lot of tact to manage the politicians, because their interests are very different too. Sometimes their interests are at variance with institutional interests.
So were you like a by the book type of CEO?
Yes, I was a by the book type of CEO. That's why during my term we even closed CBU, because at that time I felt the School of Medicine at CBU was not meeting standards, and we closed it. And everybody was shocked. You closed the government institution. And my argument was that, look, it's not me. The same government you're talking about put up these standards, and the same government, its institution is not meeting the standards. And the law that is there says such an institution should be closed, whether government or not. And I closed it.
And it brought...
No, it brought fire. It brought brimstone. But I don't think that's what triggered it. But I think maybe that's what sort of put me on the path to removal.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Are there any other radical decisions or changes you made in the institution?
But you know what's funny? Most of the decisions we made at that time were probably considered radical, but they were not radical in my mind. And they were not radical in the mind of my team.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, here's what I think didn't make it radical, is that you have a law that has been passed by parliament. The same politicians went to parliament, passed a law, and then they created this parastatal. And then all your decisions are guided by that same law they have given you. Mm-hmm. Okay? And so all the decisions we made during my time, if you go and review each one of them, whether it is introduction of licensure exams, because remember, licensure exams were introduced by us, by our team. Mm-hmm. Whether it is suspension of licenses for certain specific institutions, including government ones like CBU, for example, whether it's indexing, okay, all these things were guided by the law. Mm-hmm. And these are decisions which are at most made by the board. My job was just to announce them, that this is a decision has been made. And that's another thing that shocked me as well during my time, that why would it be thought to be radical when the decisions we are making are actually in a piece of legislation that has already been passed by parliament? What makes it radical? Mm. Yeah. So I was a by the book type of person. And because of that, I may have stepped on some toes. I may have upset some people. And then a few people that were probably unhappy decided that I was causing a bit of disquiet. But in the process, all we wanted was to make sure that by the time you go to a hospital, mm-hmm. you should have confidence that the people attending to you are of high quality. Mm-hmm. I'll give you an example of why we introduced these licensure exams. The spirit behind the licensure exam, because the licensure exam in itself mm-hmm. is not the best way to check quality, mm-hmm. because you cannot inspect quality into a product. Because what this one does is that you allow a student to be produced, then at the end, you do an exam. Mm-hmm. That's a very, very inferior way of ensuring quality. But then why did we do it still? We did it because eventually we were going to stop requiring licensure exams from institutions that were meeting standards. So meaning that, take for example, say UNILAS, School of Medicine, right, is meeting all our standards. Then we would say, okay, because UNILAS as a school has met all the standards, their students should not sit for licensure exam. So that becomes like a badge of honor. Mm-hmm. And that's where we were going with licensure exams. And that was the end product. Because what that does now is that you are now inspecting the process that is producing the doctor. It is much better to instill quality in the process that is producing a product than to think that you can inspect quality into a product that has been produced by a process that is inferior. Yeah. And so that was the thinking, and that was the vision behind licensure exam. And I hope that that's the vision that my colleagues who remained continued to. But unfortunately, when I was removed, and with some of my colleagues, licensure exam was also removed together with us. But interestingly, they brought it back.
Someone saw
And,
sense
and,
in
I,
it.
and I was laughing in my heart. I'm like, but that's one of the reasons I was fired for. Why are you bringing it back?
Now, Doc, let's speak about the 4 months that you stayed at home.
Yeah.
What was going through your mind? What were you going through? Because as much as we can laugh about it now, I don't think it's such a light decision that they made, and from a planning point of view, you've got a family and all of that. How did you navigate through this?
It was difficult. Probably it was one of the most painful experiences, like painful and life-changing experiences in my life. I've had a few painful experiences, some in very early childhood, but this one was probably the second. Among the painful experiences in my life, that was the second one, if not a third. First of all, I was confused. Why? Because the way they did it, they announced in the media, and I learned from the media, and I had no reasons why they had removed me. Yeah. And then suddenly I had no job, and I'm sitting at home, and then there's this thing that happens when you get fired, especially from a parastatal. Remember, when you are sitting as CEO of a parastatal, your phone is very busy.
Very busy. And the friends are many.
My brother. Then you get fired, and then your phone goes quiet, like quiet. You even ask people to say, do we have network?
Is my phone on? Is
my
it
phone
off?
on? Is it off? Suddenly, a phone which was ringing every second, every minute, would go the whole day without ringing. Yeah. That's when it dawned on me that when you're in these positions, either CEO, permanent secretary, minister, even president, the attention you are receiving is for the position, not for you. People are interested in the position. They're not interested in you. And that's when it hit me. Now, the loneliness, the pain, the disillusionment, I literally went into clinical depression.
Oh, sorry about that.
I was depressed. The reason I know that I was depressed is that at my home, I have a small little office. I would sit in that office from morning up to 02:03 in the morning without even realizing it. That's when I realized I was in trouble. But then I didn't even notice it myself that I was in trouble. A very close friend of mine, I noticed that he frequented my house suddenly during that period. He would come and get me to go and watch games at Sunset Stadium, Independence Stadium. I watched the Zambian League during that period. Yeah, I did.
Were you interested in it before?
No.
Do you still have do you have an interest now?
I do, right? But at that time, it was like a ritual. He always came to take me to watch football. I never understood why. He just wanted to get me out of
the house. Yeah.
Then I learned much later that it's my wife who went and reported me to my friend to say, can you go and check on this guy? Yeah. This chap can do anything. He's not looking okay.
He's not himself.
No, he's not himself. Yeah. And when I snapped out of it and I looked back and I looked at my behavior at that time, I realized I was depressed. And that's when, during that period, I did this page, the one I run now.
On social media?
Yeah, on social media. It was born out of that. The reason it was born, that page, was because another friend of mine said, you know what, since you're not doing anything, there's now this social media thing going on. Why don't you start a page where, you produce, health content and you help other people? And that's one thing that I think really, really helped me snap out of the depression. Because helping other people's problems, I realized that in my inbox, I used to get a lot of serious problems. And focusing on other people's problems made me focus less on mine. And that's how I recovered from depression. 6 months of sitting at home, then I decided, you know what, I need to do something. So I decided to close one of my companies. I used to be in transport at that time. I shut down my transport company, sold all the cars. That's how I started the clinic that I'm running now.
Okay, so during that period, you completely also lost interest in running the transport company.
Yes.
And the fact that you're not there, I'm sure things went.
Yes. I just lost interest in everything and anything.
So let's speak about the clinic.
Yeah.
What is the clinic about? Is there any specialization?
Oh yes. So when I saw that, okay, I still need to feed children, I have bills to pay, I have a wife to look after, and it's difficult. One of the things you would have to experience for you to appreciate it is, as a man, it's very hard to go through that phase where you are not earning and your partner is the one earning. It puts too much pressure on them. It's got nothing to do with your partner. It's just the nature of things.
That's how things are.
And also puts pressure on you. And so I decided, you know what, I need to do something. So, and that's how we started the clinic. Now, remember, I started the clinic during the time that the government that fired me was still in office. So to start the clinic, I couldn't start it directly and openly with my names on the papers.
The same institution to give you a certificate.
To give me my certificate, the institution that fired me. And because I wasn't sure of the circumstances which I was fired, I decided to look for a company I can buy, like a shell company I can buy. So I went around, looked around, asked around, until Oscar Chavula. I asked him if he had a shell company. No problem, bro, I have a shell company. So he sold me a shell company that he had. Yeah. But then I asked Oscar to do me an extra favor. I said, I need you and all the directors that are on your company right now not to remove your names. All the paperwork that will go into this application, can you guys sign it for me? Okay. And then we signed a contract in the background that protects the fact that this is my company and I've bought it, and that these guys are just proxies. So my lawyers came in, their lawyers came in, we signed that document to protect my interest. And so that's how the clinic was registered, with Oscar Chavula and the other directors who were in that shell company as the front. My name was nowhere on the papers because I didn't know how they would react if they saw my name on the list.
I think I have an idea.
Yeah. So when I spoke to Oscar about it, he was like, these were his words. He said, don't worry, my brother, I'll carry the cross for you. Yeah. And he carried the cross for me to this day. And I think that he didn't have to do it. But again, in life, you need people like that. Yeah. You need people like that have the insight to be able to pick a brother from the ground and, put a brother behind them and be the shield for a brother. I wish I could do that for somebody else in future, because Oscar did it for me. So that's how the clinic started. The clinic was registered. Oscar Chavula and the others directors, they signed all the papers. It was my clinic. Even on the list of employees, I was not there, but I was working there. And I was running the clinic. I was signing on all bank transactions and everything. So what was this clinic about? So we went into the market as CarePick, and our unique selling point was to care for people. Our philosophy is that at the clinic is that anybody can treat hypertension, anybody can treat diabetes, anybody can treat anemia, right? But not everybody can make you feel cared for. So our goal at CarePick is that when you come to our clinic, when you walk out, what should ring at the back of your mind is that I'm from a place where people made me feel cared for. Now, we take that so seriously as a clinic that we even say it at CarePick that if there's a crime you can commit at CarePick for which you cannot be forgiven, is to fail to care for the client. Yeah. That's why I find that when you come to our clinic, we've really, really emphasized on customer care. We literally have people who are on our payroll to just make sure that clients feel cared for. And that's what the clinic is about. So specializations, we have both general consultation and specialist consultation. So we have internal medicine, skin doctors, bone and muscle doctors, obstetrics and gynecology, rheumatology, neurosurgery, such specializations. And we've taken it even further than that. We've partnered with some colleagues in India who have super specialization where we do online consultations. For example, if you need a second opinion on something that we know that our local experts cannot do, we give you access to that second opinion from our super specialized doctors in India that we've partnered with. We've also gone further. We've brought convenience into the health space. For example, if you are very busy, our clinic can come to you and treat you from where you are. For example, you're busy in the office, you have a little headache, you don't want to go to the hospital, just call us. A doctor will come here, give you everything you need. For example, you're pregnant as a woman, right? And you're busy, you don't want to go and do a scan for the baby. Just call us. We can come and do a scan either in your office, we come and do a scan in your home. Yeah, for the baby. And then you can take the report back to your doctor.
Great. Now, Doc, I want to ask a question to do with your journey as an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
After you closed the transport business, did you set up other businesses after the clinic started running, or you've just focused on the clinic to get the best out of it?
Oh, okay. No, I've done several businesses before. Some have failed in a very spectacular manner. In fact, most of the businesses I started failed very badly, actually. My journey into business as a business person started at a very young age. My mother would always have me sell her chickens for her. That's where I started from. I remember, there was a time in Zambia, frizzits used to come from Zimbabwe before we started making them ourselves. Yeah. So I would go to Zimbabwe to go and bring in frizzits at a very young age. When I was waiting for my grade 8 results, our results took like 6 months to come out. During that window period, I used to go to Zimbabwe to bring frizzits for my mother. So that's what built me into business. When I went into University of Zambia, first year I started buying shares on the stock market. Yeah, so the BC I would get from government, that meal allowance, I would get a 20 kwacha and buy shares on the stock market. Because at that time, that's when the stock market had just come in. Chibamba Kanyama used to publicize the stock market a lot on ZNBC. And I got fascinated and I started buying shares bit by bit using my BC. Then when I went to Ridgeway campus, I started selling eggs in my room. My room used to smell like a chicken run. What I used to do was that I had agreed with a farmer who used to do eggs. So this man would bring me 40 trays every Friday. And the way I used to sell those trays is that I used to give 4 trays to the canteen at UTH inside there. The one on top by the reception there. Madam Zimba used to buy eggs from me. So the way she used to do it is that I would give her 4 trays every day in the morning and I would get paid on a Friday. There was another canteen by the roadside there, but you'd get 1 tray from me every day. So every day I dish out 5 trays. So in the morning, I'd wake up in the morning, do the trays, deliver the trays, go back to my room, get ready for school, go to class. I did that every day. From 3rd year, 4th year, 5th year, 6th year, I stopped. Because at that time, I had raised enough money to buy a car. So I bought a car when I was in 6th year. So the way I bought that car was that the proceeds from the eggs and the money I had made from buying shares on the stock market, so I offloaded all my shares. And the profits from the eggs, I bought my first car.
What car was it?
It was a Camry.
Ah,
yeah.
Okay.
That's how I went into the transport business. When I bought the car at that time, I didn't even know how to drive. So I had a friend in medical school who used to drive the car for me. So if I wanted to go somewhere, I would beg him to take me. But if he wanted to go anywhere, he would just grab my car and go.
Benefits.
Benefits. Yeah. So I had my first driver. By the time I was graduating from medical school, my fleet had grown to about 6 cars, I think. Yeah, I had about 6 cars. At that point, I even registered my first real business with Pakra. And that's the business I started running, transportation. It even grew into, I moved away from blue taxis. I went into car rental. And that's the business I eventually closed when I was, yeah. Now, along the way, I also started an insurance business. So the insurance business is still running to this day. It's an insurance broking firm. It's been running for about 9 years now. Yeah.
Interesting.
Our offices are in Roadsback, just after Care Peak. That's where those offices are. Yeah. So yeah, and then I started this business. I tried to go into starting a school, which never worked out. I tried to go into the financial sector, it never worked out. I tried several other things that never worked out. Yeah.
And I think it's a normal thing as an entrepreneur. I meet people who tell me, what I like about you is that everything you do, succeeds. No, it doesn't.
No, it's what they see.
It's what you see because you don't know how many other things
How
have
many
failed
other
at.
things, yeah.
Now, Doc, let's speak about you touched on it a little bit. Your social media
Yes.
journey. You've got quite impressive numbers.
I get shocked as well because when I went in, I never went in with a view to grow such a huge following. That was not the intention. I wasn't even expecting that I would have such a big following. When I started, for me, it was, I just wanted to help a few people. Like people come into my inbox, and nowadays I can't handle that inbox because it's too packed.
Too busy.
I started taking that social media platform very seriously when we reached 50,000 people. Yeah. So when we got to 50,000...
These are organic numbers.
These are organic numbers. Yeah. And everything has been organic, by the way. Everything has been organic. So when we got to 50,000 people, I decided to start taking it seriously. By then, the first decision I made was, now that I've reached 50,000 people, I need to define my audience. Who is my target?
Yes.
I realized that my target is a lay person who has never been to medical school, but is interested in learning more about the human body and medicine in general. Now, imagine you have somebody sitting in front of you. They've never been to medical school. How would you teach them medicine? That was the question. And so I started curating messages in such a way that it's easy for somebody who's never been to medical school to appreciate medical issues. And that also got me into a bit of trouble with people in the profession, because some of my critics within the profession felt like I was diluting the message too much, that some of the things were not coming out very accurate, but it's expected. Yeah, because the language that I will use to a lay person is different to the language I'd use to a professional. When you're speaking as professionals, even words have to be very precise. You're talking to a fellow professional. But if I spoke that way with a lay person, they'll never get me. They'll not even understand what I'm saying. So, and I kept reminding, my colleagues who would come to criticize me on the page, say, look, you guys, this platform is not for you. This platform is for lay people. So go to platforms for professionals.
For professionals.
Yes. And if you feel what I've said is not accurate, read it, check it, fact check. And on my page, I always encourage people to fact check what I post. I literally encourage people to say, if you find anything that we've posted that is not true, come back to us or show us the evidence that what we're saying is not true. Yeah. But we also lace it with a bit of humor, because medical information is boring.
It's too serious.
Very boring. It's too serious. Yeah. For example, I'll give you an example. I can easily say, when a baby is in the mother's womb, she swims in amniotic fluid. That amniotic fluid is supposed to protect the baby from, shocks and bumps. Well, it's boring. An exciting way to say it is to say, do you know that when you're in a mother's womb, you used to drink your own urine? You will not forget that. Is it? You will not forget that. Yeah. If I say, when you're in mother's womb, you used to drink your own urine, you will not forget that.
Now, Doc, let's speak about some of the medical issues that would be of importance to a lot of our people that are watching this podcast. I'll start with men. As a man is growing up, what are some of the things that they need to do to make sure that they're on point in terms of their health? We have a tendency of only going to the hospital when we're sick. Yeah.
And it starts from there. I think culturally as a people, we don't have a word for maintenance. We have a word for repair. So we wait for things to get damaged, then we fix them. Even cars, that's our approach. We wait for the car. We don't service cars on schedule and things like that. The same way a vehicle needs servicing on schedule, it's the same way your body also needs similar, the same approach. to your body. Your body needs servicing. Now, there are a lot of things that catch us by surprise, and there are a lot of preventable things that catch us by surprise. And those are things we want to really discuss. There are certain disease conditions that you can actually prevent. There are certain disease conditions that are actually lifestyle related that you can prevent. For example, diabetes. Diabetes, especially type 2, it can be prevented. You don't have to live with diabetes. And if you have it, it can be reversed.
You said type 2.
So there's type 1 and type 2 diabetes. Type 1 is where you are born with it, and you see it mainly in children. Type 2, it comes later in life, and it comes in adult life. So you're an adult, that's when you get it. And it comes because of lifestyle. Hypertension, same thing. Dementia, same thing.
Lifestyle.
Yes, it's lifestyle. It's been shown that it's more people who have hypertension and diabetes are the ones who are more likely to have dementia later in life. So if you can prevent this, you can also prevent dementia. Yeah. Now, dementia in Zambia, a lot of times, people who suffer from dementia, those are the ones you find that, banagwira mfiti huku. They found an old woman naked on someone's house and then they kill them. Yeah, those are patients with dementia. Because what happens to those people is that they would go out to go and pee. Remember, toilets are outside in these communities.
Yes.
So you go out to go and pee, and because you have dementia, you are leaving your toilet, you forget your house. And you end up on someone's house. And then they wake up in the morning, they find you outside somebody's house, and you're also an elderly person. What do they think? They'll kill you. Yeah, and that's what happens.
Wow.
Yeah.
Maybe there need to be sensitization around
A
it.
lot. We need a lot of sensitization. So you're talking about hypertension, dementia, diabetes. For men, prostate cancer. Very important. Like if you're a man and you've gone beyond the age of 50, the age of 40 rather, it's important to have your prostate checked. Now, most people are afraid of prostate cancer screening because they think that we push a finger in their rectum. I mean, of course, it used to happen in the past.
It doesn't happen anymore?
Well, we don't do it nowadays for screening purposes. We don't do it. We do it for different reasons, but just purely for screening, we don't push a finger in the rectum anymore. Because I know out there people are afraid of that. But what we do now is just a blood test and a scan, and that's it.
And that's it.
Yeah. For women, cervical cancer screening, because remember, Zambia is one of the top countries when it comes to cervical cancer. So young women of childbearing age, it's important. When I went to medical school, things like prostate cancer, cervical cancer were diseases of the elderly. But in our time, very young people are getting these things. So that's why we are talking about them a lot. And of course, these are infections that are spreading very fast. HIV, STDs, hepatitis B, of course, you need screening for those things, yeah.
So, for example, as a man, you go for a prostate cancer screening or test. How does that help you? If you found that you have it, when you detect it early, does it help you in the future, or you know?
And that's the whole principle behind prostate cancer screening, is that when you detect it early, you can actually cure it. And what we mean by early detection, we are saying that yes, you found it and it was still in the prostate, it doesn't come out of the prostate and started spreading. We don't want to catch prostate cancer after it has spread. Because when we catch it while it's still in the prostate and doesn't go anywhere, we'll simply remove the prostate, throw it in the dustbin, and it will never give you problems. Now, when prostate cancer spreads, it's a very difficult disease to treat. And depending on the type, it literally kills people within 12 months of discovery. You discover now, within 12 months, you're dead. And then also, it's the statistics around prostate cancer. You'd find that it is said that 1 in every 4 men would develop prostate cancer in a lifetime. And 1 in 12 would die of prostate cancer in a lifetime. Now, in this room, we have about 6 men, right? If you count 1 up to 4, the 4th one will have prostate cancer.
In this room?
In this room, yes.
People's eyes are...
Yeah. And so now, why do we talk a lot about prostate cancer among ourselves as Black people? Is that if you look at the risk factors for prostate cancer, 3 are very prominent. The first one is the fact that if you are Black, Okay, you're a black person. Black people are disproportionately affected by prostate cancer by number. Yeah, and that's why we talk about it.
Is there a reason behind it?
We are still looking for the reason, but there are speculations. The other one is age. Every 10 years that you live after the age of 40, for each 10 years that you live after the age of 40, your risk for prostate cancer continues to rise. The third one is family history. For example, if there's been prostate cancer on your father's side of the family, not your mother, your father's side of the family, if anybody had prostate cancer, then you're more likely to get prostate cancer as well. So that's why we talk about it.
So, Doc, there's a lot of myths around. Some will say, when a man is having too much sex, they have a risk of getting prostate cancer. Or no, if you're having too less, when the sex is too less, could you talk about that, Doc?
Yes, there's a very interesting study that was published on that, that claimed that a higher frequency of ejaculation, not sex, ejaculation, reduced the risk of prostate cancer. Meaning that it proposed that you have to ejaculate about 21 times a month as a man, minimum, to prevent prostate cancer. Now, that's a lot of ejaculation. Okay. Now, that study, unfortunately, had a lot of internal technical problems. That's why I find that as doctors, we don't propose that to people, to say, go and ejaculate to protect yourself from prostate cancer. Neither do we discourage you, because we don't have good evidence to say that what that study said is not true. We don't have good evidence to believe it. We don't have good evidence to disprove it. And in any case, ejaculating doesn't have any problems. No one has fallen sick because of ejaculation. So, and if you have the capacity, go ahead. But otherwise, it's not something that we put forward as doctors to say, go and ejaculate or go and have sex this many times to prevent prostate cancer.
Okay, so in the same breath, Doc, let's speak about cervical cancer.
Yes.
How is it that women can also, prevent it, or how can they protect themselves?
For women, it's difficult, and protection is really about making sure that they have the that vaccination you do for young girls. Yeah. So before the young girls have sex, their sex debut, they need to have that vaccine, and it's very important that.
Which vaccine is this?
The vaccine for HPV, the human papilloma virus. Yeah. Because the cervical cancer is linked to human papilloma virus. So that's one. Number two is to prevent cervical cancer, they need to reduce on the number of, if you have multiple sexual partners as a female, because you're now exposing yourself to more and more HPV. Yeah. And then screening. Screening prevents cervical cancer by the same reason I gave about prostate cancer, catching it early. So same thing with cervical cancer. If you catch it early, you can actually cure it. That's why screening is very important. It's an important component around it. But in Africa, particularly in Zambia, HIV is also involved in driving the numbers for cervical cancer. There's actually a link between HIV and cervical cancer.
This is the Kenny T One-on-One podcast. Remember to like, share, and subscribe. Back to you, Doc. I want to speak about sex. There's issues to do with rounds and all of that. I remember someone asking the question to say, one man's ejaculation is like running a marathon. Can you delve a bit into that?
Well, it depends. Of course, I mean, if say, for example, someone sort of like ejaculates very fast, like within 2 minutes you're done, it doesn't add to a marathon. That's a myth, really.
It's not okay for someone to ejaculate in 2 minutes, though.
Well, that would be considered erectile dysfunction. Yes, that would be considered erectile dysfunction. It's actually considered premature ejaculation, and there's treatment for that. There are tablets that are given to manage that. Yeah.
What does it do?
Well, if there's a man out there and you're struggling with early ejaculation, don't be shy about it. Come to the clinic. We'll link you up to a specialist and they'll assist you. They will first of all investigate you and see what's causing it. Because one of the causes of premature ejaculation that is neglected is a nagging wife. A nagging wife, I'm using it quote unquote, or a nagging girlfriend, or a girlfriend or a partner that, the relationship is not okay, it's strained. It can cause, erectile dysfunction. And some of the solutions don't even require drugs. You just need to fix the relationship. Back to the issue that you asked about, can a round, is it equivalent to running a marathon? There it depends on the actual type of round. Because like I said, if you're ejaculating very early, it does not add up to that. The round that is referred to that may be equivalent to running a marathon is that one where when you are done, you sleep. Now, which brings me to the next point. There are men who like to claim that, naka birivisa, I did 5 rounds.
Yeah.
Naka peteka. Now, we were not there, first of all, to confirm that you did those rounds. Okay. 2, remember that we are talking about the fact that if you do a good round, you should be able to sleep and then recover. Yeah, you should be able to sleep and then recover. Because even your erection itself is supposed to recover. Okay? We know that human biology requires time to recover. You can only do so many rounds in a night. And majority of men out there who claim to do those several rounds, they are just making stories. Because if we ask the women involved, I think this issue of rounds, let the women tell us and say, no, so and so, Ananicha several rounds. Then we'll believe. Because guys can say anything to create.
Is it possible for a man above, say, 40 to do these 4 rounds, 5 rounds?
Usually, if you do a round properly, 1 round is enough. If you do it properly, 1 round is enough.
1 round is enough.
If you do it properly, yes. 1 round is enough. Because by then, your energy, remember, sex takes a lot of energy. Your energy, you'll be drained, literally. And there's also that recovery period that has to happen. Yeah. So that's why usually when you check, and I'm sure most men will agree, the so-called first round usually is fast. Usually it's fast. It's the second one that lasts longer. Yeah. For most men, anyway. It's the second one that lasts longer. And so sometimes you find that for men who struggle with early ejaculation, talk to your partner. That let the first one go fast. Yeah. And then do it properly the second time. Now you will notice that if you do it properly, usually, for a normal man out there, when they do it properly, they sleep. Bamagona, my guys. Now, if you've slept and because you are tired and you've done it properly, when are you going to do another one and another one and another one? And it's because of this peer pressure. That's why I find that people drink pwanya something.
I was actually getting to
they
that.
Drink mutoto. Now, what that does is that, yes, it will give you a longer erection. It will give you an erection that lasts longer. But you are risking, okay, here's what you are risking by that. You are risking what we call priapism. You know what priapism is?
No.
Priapism is an erection that doesn't go away and begins to cause pain.
Oh.
And now the reason you have pain is because the penis is dying. That's the reason you have pain. And when you have priapism, it's an emergency. You have to get to a hospital quickly. Because if you delay to get to the hospital, that's the last erection you ever have. Yeah. And these are the guys now who begin to give us problems. No, doc, it doesn't shine. It doesn't. You forget that you drank something and you killed it. Because here's how the penis dies. You see, the mechanism of an erection is basically blood into a spongy tissue. It gets locked inside, and that's what gives the penis an erection. And it has to stay there for a limited period of time. Beyond a certain period of time, that blood in there loses all the oxygen it had and the tissues begin to die. Yeah. And that's why priapism is dangerous.
Doc, so every time, especially during short time, you've got these people selling all sorts of things, mutototo.
Kulikaja ka coffee ka green kaja.
How
Those things work.
they work?
Visebenza vija. I mean, those things work. Have you tried mtototo?
No, I haven't, Doc. Maybe you can give me some after the show.
No, those things work. The only problem you have with those things is that because the dosing is not well properly calibrated, they may end up causing kidney failure, liver failure in some people. But the biggest risk you have is priapism. Yeah. The other risk you have is that if you have hypertension and other problems, including these modern drugs, they've killed people. You've heard stories of people who've died on top.
On top?
Yeah. They are documented stories, some public figures who've literally died on top. Why? Because they took the blue pill. Yeah. Because to them, they had a story that my friend said, if I drink 2 of these or 3 of these, anzaka birivisa kamfanak. And then you take 3 of those or 2 of those blue pills plus alcohol on top. Ndawenda paja wazima nozimu. Wafera pamwamba pamwana waveni.
So what would your word be to the men?
So to the men who are struggling with erectile dysfunction, seek help. There's a safe way to do these things. And then one man's cause of the same problem is different with another man's cause of the same problem. So I can't come to you and say, your boy, ija problem nayo inenamwa hivi nayo enda ukamwe. No, we are different. Your issues may be different from mine. That's why we all need professional help. Yeah.
Doc, just really quickly as we wind up, you were you're nominated as the most influential personality a couple of times. How did you receive that, and what does that mean to you?
It was a very humbling thing. First of all, I never set out to. I didn't. One of the things I struggle with, right? Even to this day, I struggle with this quote unquote celebrity status. For me, it came late. I'm an old man. You understand? I sometimes I tell people that I wish I had this when I was younger. Then maybe it would have that sort of aura and excitement that it's supposed to have. For me, it's an honor. It's a privilege. I never expected it, and I'm grateful to the institutions that gave me that award. And but I was very surprised.
Great.
Yeah.
My research team tells me you do lecturing part-time.
Yes.
Unza. There's also an aspect of you doing something with Pinewood.
Yes. I should have told you this story. Very interesting. When I was in medical school, I used to teach. I was a teacher.
Okay.
So I used to teach at Pinewood Preparatory School. I taught mathematics, English, and science for quite a while. The owners of that school were very gracious to me. They allowed me to teach students, even if I wasn't a trained teacher, but because I loved science and I loved children, and the children I taught at that time took very nicely to me because I loved kids, and I made the class very fun and easy to learn. And some of the people I taught at that time, some of them are now doctors, actually. I work with them.
Yeah.
Some of them, I see them around in Lusaka. So I was a teacher at one point in my life. And then I am honorary lecturer in the University of Zambia. I believe I'm still on their roster, although I've not taught in the last 2 years because of my busy schedule. But I've been teaching in the University of Zambia for some time.
Great, Doc. My final question to you will be why it's important for us to drink water. That is when we're closing. For now, I've got 3 questions. And from the 3, you will pick one, which means that question, it's you who's going to ask our next guest. But there is a question for you as well from our previous guest. So, Doc, which one are you picking from 1, 2, and 3? For our next guest.
Or for the next guest?
Yeah. So, I don't know which number. Number 3.
I pick 3, fine.
Okay.
What question is that?
It says, would you rather read minds or predict the future? So, we'll let him answer that. But your question from our previous guest is, what food combination do you love that others find strange?
Interesting. I eat a lot of insects actually.
Insects.
Yes, I eat a lot of insects. If in Kubala,
I love Vikura.
I love those things.
Yeah.
Inswa.
Insu I haven't eaten in a long
Okay.
time. But
Although
yeah.
people like to tell me, they look like cockroaches, but they're nice. I like shonkonono, grasshoppers. Yeah. So I like eating insects.
Doc, as we close, why is it important for us to drink water? And in answering that, does size matter?
Let's talk about size. Some of the things we lie to each other as men is that we have this obsession with a large penis. But the question is, what size is considered large? We all have different sizes in our heads. And as a result, we begin to pursue huge sizes. And my argument is always that for most Black people, most of them, except for a few maybe, but majority, your penis size is actually above average. It's actually very good. Micro penis is not a very common finding in a lot of us. So most Zambians that you will find, most of them, their penises are of good size. So there's no need to go out there and start looking for things to enlarge your penis. And here's another thing. The sad part, and this is really, really, really sad about penis enlargement, is that what size is enough? Now ask yourself, the vaginal tract to which you are trying to enlarge the penis for, unfortunately, that tube is elastic. When did you last see the actual size of the head of a baby? A newly born baby. Remember that head comes from the vaginal tract itself, and it's accommodated nicely without problems. Okay? So when we are talking size, that's what you are competing with. So stop. You can't win this size issue. It doesn't matter the size that you get to. That vaginal tract is elastic enough, it will accommodate you nicely, easily, without problems. Yeah, you can be as big as my hand or as big as my leg, provided it's not the same as the head of a baby, you'll be accommodated without issues. Yeah. Well, here's the issue. The issue is that it comes back. That's why also the issue of does the vagina become loose if someone sleeps with so many men? No, it doesn't. It doesn't.
But other men will say otherwise, Doc.
No, it doesn't. It comes back. The looseness that you see is because of childbirth. If someone has had a baby, yes, there may be some looseness. But even that looseness that comes with childbirth, it can actually be managed with Kegel exercises. Yeah. There are women who understand these things so well that they've had many children. But when you go in there, it feels like she's young, but she's had many children. Why? Because they understand Kegel exercise. They didn't let themselves go. Yeah. But if it's just about sleeping with men, it doesn't distend and become permanently stretched because of several men. No.
The importance of drinking water, Doc?
Water. You are more than 70% water as a person. Yeah. Your entire body is water. Yeah. That is why I insist that people should drink water. The other benefit of water is that the more water you drink, the younger you look. Yeah. The more water you drink, the easier your body processes things in the body. The more water you drink, the more diseases you even prevent. You sleep better. You feel better. And that is why, for me, I'm very, very strong on water. And I keep reminding people to drink water literally every day. I hope the message is getting out there.
How many liters do I need to drink?
So for you, when I look at your body size and height, you should drink at least anywhere between 2.5 to 2.8 liters of water every day.
Every day.
Doc, but again, depends on the weather as well. If it's cold, you drink less. Yeah.
Doc, I'd like to thank you very much. I know you had a program with one of your daughters today. We had to find a way to maneuver to make sure you're here. Thank you very much for your time. We're very grateful. We don't take it for granted.
Thank you.
Hope to have you again when we call on you. It was a great show. I enjoyed it.
Whenever you're ready, I'll come.
All right, Doc.